So, what really makes a person smart? For centuries, we've been trying to pin that down. Today, we're going to dive deep into the very architecture of intelligence. And trust me, it's a journey that takes us from a single, simple number to a whole symphony of human abilities.
But let's just start with that big question, one we've all thought about. What does it really mean to be smart? Is it just about getting good grades? Or solving a really hard puzzle? Or is it something more?
You know, for a huge chunk of modern history, society's answer was surprisingly simple. The idea was that intelligence could be boiled down to just one score, a single number that was supposed to define your entire mental capacity. But, as we're about to see, that's only a tiny piece of a much, much bigger story.
Okay, so to understand where we are now, we've got to start at the beginning. Let's take a look at the original SMART test, the one idea that really dominated how we thought about intelligence for most of the 20th century.
The classic definition, the one you'll see in a lot of textbooks, comes from psychologist David Wexler. Now, he argued that intelligence wasn't just about being book smart. He called it a global capacity. It's about, acting with purpose, thinking rationally, and, this is the key part, dealing effectively with whatever your environment throws at you.
And this global capacity was measured by the famous intelligence quotient, or IQ. A score somewhere between 90 and 110 was considered average, and if you hit 120 or more, you were labeled gifted. This scale pretty much became the gold standard, but it left a massive question just hanging in the air.
Where does that number even come from? Are you just born smart, or do you become smart? And that question, my friends, leads us straight into one of the oldest and most heated debates in all of psychology: nature versus nurture.
So you basically had two main camps. On one side, the genetic determinists, who believed intelligence is pretty much hardwired from birth. On the other side were the environmentalists, like J.B. Watson, who famously claimed he could take any baby and train them to be anything, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. And the thing is, both sides had some pretty compelling evidence.
So, on the nature side of things, look at this number, 0.86. That's the correlation for IQ scores between identical twins. Now, a perfect correlation is 1.0, so 0.86 is incredibly high. It's a really powerful piece of evidence for a strong genetic link.
But wait, now look at this number, 16. This is the average IQ point difference that a French study found between adopted children who scored about 111 and their non-adopted siblings who stayed in a less privileged environment who scored around 95. A 16-point difference? That's huge, and it just goes to show you the massive impact of your environment, your education, and your opportunities.
Okay, so if intelligence isn't just one number, and it seems to be a mix of our genes and our environment, then what is it? Well, this is where our understanding took a giant leap forward, all thanks to a psychologist named Howard Gardner and his game-changing theory of multiple intelligences. Gardner's idea was nothing short of revolutionary. He completely reframed the conversation. It wasn't about how smart are you anymore. Instead, it became how are you smart? He said we all have multiple types of intelligence. We just have different strengths and weaknesses across the board.
I mean, Gardner's framework just blew the doors off the old model. Think about it. Traditional IQ tests really only measure two of these, word smarts and number smarts. But Gardner identified all these others: the body smarts of a great athlete, the people smarts of an amazing leader, or the self smarts of a philosopher. This totally changed the way we look at human potential.
Gardner's work on people smarts and self smarts really paved the way for another major breakthrough. Around the same time, other researchers started focusing on what you might call heart smarts, or, as we know it, emotional intelligence.
So this is emotional intelligence, or EQ. Daniel Goleman made it famous, and at its core, it's the ability to perceive, understand, and manage emotions, both your own and other people's. It's not about just being nice, it's about being emotionally aware and using that information to navigate life way more effectively.
Emotional intelligence is really built on 5 core pillars. It all kicks off with self-awareness, just recognizing what you're feeling. From there, you can learn to regulate those feelings. Then you add in motivation, empathy for others, and finally, the social skills to put it all into practice. It's pretty easy to see how this kind of intelligence can often be way more important for success than a high IQ, right?
So we have IQ, multiple intelligences, and EQ. But where do things like potential and originality fit into all this? Let's take a second to clear up the difference between intelligence, aptitude, and creativity.
Here's a really simple way to think about it. Intelligence is your overall mental horsepower right now. Aptitude, on the other hand, is your potential in one specific area. So intelligence might be the current size of your car's engine, while aptitude is a sign that you have the raw talent to become an amazing race car driver if you get the right training.
And then you've got creativity. This isn't about how much you know, it's about what you can do with what you know. It's the ability to come up with something new, something original, something useful. So while intelligence might help you solve a problem that's already defined, creativity is what helps you see the problem in a totally new way or invent a solution nobody's thought of before.
So why does any of this matter? What's the real-world takeaway? Well, the most immediate and important application is in education. Understanding these different architectures of intelligence completely flips the script on how we should be teaching and learning.
I mean, a one-size-fits-all classroom just makes no sense when we know all this. A gifted learner, for example, is going to thrive with more challenging tasks that keep them engaged. But a student who learns at a slower pace isn't disabled. They just need things broken down differently, maybe with more repetition and step-by-step guidance. Tailoring our approach is how we give every single student a real chance to succeed.
So our understanding of intelligence has been on quite a journey, right? We've gone from a single number to this whole symphony of human abilities, from logical to emotional, from physical to interpersonal. And that leaves us with one final, really important question. Now that we know there are so many different ways to be smart, how do we build a world, our schools, our workplaces, our communities, that doesn't just tolerate them, but actually celebrates all of them?